Captain Alexandra Alex Hawkins, retired, stood in line at the food bank in Fayetteville, North Carolina, trying to make herself invisible. She wore a worn baseball cap pulled low, an oversized jacket despite the summer heat, and kept her eyes on the ground. She was 36 years old, a decorated combat veteran, and she was broke. Not just struggling, not just tight on money, completely, utterly broke. The VA disability check she received each month barely covered rent on the studio apartment she shared with her 8-year-old daughter, Emma. After utilities, there was almost nothing left for food. Her car had been repossessed 2 months ago. Her credit cards were maxed out, and the medical bills from Emma's asthma treatments kept piling up. So here she was, in line at the Fayetteville Community Food Bank, waiting for groceries she couldn't afford to buy. "Next," called the volunteer at the table, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes. Alex stepped forward, keeping her head down. "Name?" the volunteer asked. "Alexandra Hawkins." The woman checked her list. "First time here?" "Yes, ma'am." "No shame in needing help, honey. That's what we're here for. Just need to see your ID and proof of residence." Alex fumbled in her pocket for her wallet. As she pulled it out, her old military ID fell onto the table. The volunteer picked it up, glanced at it. "Oh, you're a veteran, Army." "Yes, ma'am." A man behind Alex in line spoke up, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Another veteran looking for a handout. What a surprise." Alex tensed but didn't turn around. "Excuse me," the volunteer said sharply. The man stepped forward. He was in his 40s, wearing an expensive suit, clearly not there for food assistance, probably volunteering to feel good about himself. "I'm just saying, I'm tired of seeing veterans using their service as an excuse to not work. Get a job like the rest of us." Alex turned slowly. "I have a job, 2 of them actually." "Oh yeah, doing what?" "I work overnight stocking at Walmart and weekends at a car wash." "And that's not enough. Maybe you should work harder." The volunteer interrupted. "Sir, if you're here to volunteer, I need you to be respectful. If not, you can leave." "I'm being honest. I've got no sympathy for people who don't take responsibility for their lives." Alex felt her hands clench into fists. She'd learned to control her temper over the years, but there were limits. "You don't know anything about my life," she said quietly. "I know you're in line at a food bank. I know you're expecting handouts instead of earning your keep. My daughter has asthma. Her medications cost $800 a month. My VA disability doesn't cover it. I work 70 hours a week and it's still not enough. So yes, I'm here asking for help, because feeding my daughter is more important than my pride." The man smirked. "You chose to have a kid, that's on you." Before Alex could respond, another voice cut through the tension. "That's enough." An older man approached, late 60s, with silver hair and the unmistakable bearing of career military. He wore a simple polo shirt, but something about him commanded instant respect. "Sir, I don't know who you are, but I'm having a private conversation," the man in the suit said. "No, you're publicly harassing a veteran who's down on her luck, and I won't stand for it." "And who are you to tell me what to do?" "Colonel James Pritchard, U.S. Army, retired, and I'm asking you to leave, now." The man in the suit looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Colonel Pritchard's eyes made him reconsider. He turned and walked away, muttering under his breath. Pritchard turned to Alex. "You okay?" "I'm fine, sir, thank you." "Don't thank me, you shouldn't have to deal with that." He studied her for a moment. "You served." "Yes, sir, Army, 8 years active duty." "What did you do?" Alex hesitated. She didn't usually talk about her service. It made people ask questions, made them treat her differently. And the gap between who she'd been then and who she was now felt too painful to explain. "I was a helicopter pilot, sir." Pritchard's eyebrows rose. "A pilot? That's impressive. What kind of birds did you fly?" "A 64 Apache." "Combat?" "3 deployments, Iraq and Afghanistan." Pritchard was looking at her with new interest now. "You flew Apache in combat and now you're working at Walmart. What happened?" Alex felt the familiar shame wash over her. "I was medically retired, sir. Injuries from a crash. The VA disability helps, but it's not enough with my daughter's medical needs. And employers don't seem interested in hearing veterans with PTSD and chronic pain." Have you tried veteran employment programs? Yes, sir. I've applied to over 200 jobs in the last year. The problem is, I can't work full-time because I need to be available for my daughter. She has medical appointments, school issues. Her father's not in the picture, it's just me. Pritchard nodded slowly. I run a veteran support organization here in Fayetteville. We help former service members transition to civilian life, connect them with resources, employment opportunities. Would you be interested in coming to our next meeting? Alex wanted to say yes, but she'd been disappointed before, promises of help that never materialized. I appreciate the offer, sir, but I've been to support groups before. They don't help with the practical stuff, the bills, the rent, the groceries. This one's different. We've got connections with local employers, we help with resume writing, interview prep, and we've got a fund to help with emergency expenses. It's not charity, it's veterans helping veterans. When's the next meeting? Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the Veterans of Foreign Wars post on Bragg Boulevard. Will you come? Alex thought about her schedule. She worked overnight Thursday through Monday. Tomorrow was Tuesday. I can be there, but I'll need to bring my daughter. That's fine, we're family-friendly. Pritchard pulled out a business card. My number's on there. If you need anything before tomorrow, call me. Alex took the card. Thank you, sir. After getting her groceries from the food bank, Alex walked the 2 miles home to her apartment, carrying the bags. Emma was at a neighbor's place, Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who watched Emma when Alex was at work. Alex picked up Emma, thanked Mrs. Chen profusely, and climbed the 3 flights to their apartment. Mama, I'm hungry, Emma said. I know, baby, let's make dinner. They ate spaghetti with tomato sauce, one of the cheap meals Alex could stretch across several days. Emma chattered about school, about her friends, about a book she was reading. Looking at her daughter's face, Alex felt the familiar mixture of love and guilt. Emma deserved better. A better home, better food, a mother who wasn't always exhausted and stressed. Mama, are you sad? Emma asked suddenly. Alex forced a smile. No, sweetie, I'm just tired. Mrs. Chen says you work too hard. I work hard so we can have a nice life. I don't need a nice life, I just need you. Alex pulled Emma into a hug, fighting back tears. That night, after Emma was asleep, Alex sat on her second-hand couch and looked at Colonel Pritchard's business card. Below his name and number was a line she hadn't noticed before. Fayetteville Veterans Coalition, no one left behind. She wanted to believe it, wanted to believe that someone might actually help, that her situation could improve. But hope was a dangerous thing when you've been let down so many times. Still, she'd go to the meeting, for Emma if nothing else. The next evening, Alex and Emma walked into the VFW post. The building was old but well-maintained, with American flags and military memorabilia on the walls. About 30 people were gathered in the main room, veterans of all ages, some with family members. Colonel Pritchard was at the front, talking with a few others. When he saw Alex, he walked over. You came, I'm glad. Yes, sir. He looked down at Emma, and who's this? This is my daughter, Emma. Hi, Emma, I'm Colonel Pritchard. We've got some other kids here tonight. See those kids over there? Why don't you go introduce yourself? Emma looked at Alex for permission. Alex nodded, and Emma ran off to join the other children. Let me introduce you to some people, Pritchard said. He led Alex around the room, introducing her to other veterans. Some were successful, small business owners, professionals. Others were struggling like her. But they all had the same look in their eyes, that shared understanding of what service and sacrifice meant. The meeting started with Pritchard addressing the group. For those who are new, this is how we operate. We're a community of veterans helping veterans. No judgment, no bureaucracy, just support. If you need a job, we'll help you find one. If you need housing, we'll connect you with resources. If you need someone to talk to, we're here. He talked about recent successes. A homeless vet who'd been placed in stable housing, another who'd found employment with a local company. Then he opened the floor for introductions. People went around the room, sharing their names, branches of service, and what they needed help with. When it was Alex's turn, she stood nervously. My name is Alexandra Hawkins. I served 8 years in the Army as an Apache helicopter pilot. I'm medically retired, working 2 jobs and trying to raise my daughter on my own. I need help finding better employment. Something with benefits, something that can support my family." A few people nodded sympathetically. Then a man in the back spoke up. He was younger, maybe early 30s, muscular, with a Marine Corps tattoo visible on his forearm. "An Apache pilot, that's pretty cool. What was your call sign?" Alex froze. She hadn't expected that question. Call signs were sacred in the military. They were earned, usually through some defining moment or characteristic. Hers had been given to her after her most significant mission, the one that had ended her career. "It was Hawk," she said quietly. "Just Hawk, that's it." Alex looked down. Hawk 8. The room went completely silent. Colonel Pritchard's head snapped up. "Hawk 8, you're Hawk 8. Alex nodded, confused by his reaction. Pritchard stood, his face pale. "Captain Alexandra Hawkins, Hawk 8, September 2018, Kandahar Province, Operation Phantom Strike." Alex felt her heart start to race. "Yes, sir." "You were the pilot who flew into that ambush, who held position under heavy fire for 47 minutes while ground forces were extracted." Yes, sir." The entire room was staring at her now. "September 2018, Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. Captain Alex Hawkins pulled her Ah-64 Apache helicopter into a hover 300 feet above a valley in southern Afghanistan. In the front seat, her co-pilot and gunner, Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Reed, scanned the terrain below with the helicopter's advanced targeting systems. "Hawk 8, this is Ground Command," the radio crackled. "We have a situation developing at Checkpoint Delta. Multiple casualties, troops under heavy fire. We need immediate air support." Alex's pulse quickened. "Ground Command, this is Hawk 8. What's the enemy's strength?" "At least 60 fighters. Taliban forces with heavy weapons, possibly RPGs. Our ground unit is pinned down. They've got wounded they can't evacuate." Alex looked at her fuel gauge. They'd been on patrol for 2 hours already. "We've got 30 minutes of station time, then we need to RTB for fuel." "Understood, Hawk 8, but those men will be dead in 30 minutes if you don't help." Alex didn't hesitate. "We're inbound, ETA 4 minutes." She pushed the Apache forward, flying low and fast over the rocky terrain. Reed armed the weapon systems, a 30 chain gun and Hydra 70 rockets. "This is going to be hot," Reed said. "When is it ever not?" Alex replied. They reached the checkpoint and immediately saw the situation. A small compound surrounded by 8 American soldiers caught in a crossfire from Taliban positions in the hills. Bodies were visible on the ground, some moving, some not. "Hawk 8, this is Sergeant First Class Martinez, ground unit leader. We've got 4 KIA, 3 wounded critical. We're surrounded and taking fire from all sides. We need you to clear those positions so we can get our wounded out." Alex scanned the terrain. The Taliban fighters were well positioned, using natural cover. Taking them out would require getting close, exposing her helicopter to ground fire. "Reed, can you get a lock on those positions?" "Affirmative. I count 6 heavy weapon emplacements, 2 probable RPG teams." "Light them up." The Apache's 30 cannon roared to life, sending high-explosive rounds into the enemy positions. Then Reed fired rockets, the Hydra pods launching in rapid succession. Explosions erupted across the hillside. Taliban fighters scattered. But they didn't run, they returned fire. Bullets began hitting the Apache. The armored helicopter could take a lot of punishment, but it wasn't invincible. "Taking fire," Reed called out. "I know, keep shooting." For the next 10 minutes, Alex held position while Reed systematically destroyed enemy positions. The Taliban kept firing back, determined to take down the helicopter. Then the warning she'd been dreading came through the radio. "Hawk 8, we've got more enemy forces moving in from the west. Estimate 40 additional fighters. You need to break off." Alex looked at the ground. Martinez's unit was trying to evacuate their wounded, but they were moving slowly. They'd never make it out before the reinforcements arrived. "Negative, ground command. We stay until the wounded are clear." "Hawk 8, you don't have the ammunition or fuel for a prolonged engagement. Break off and we'll send another bird." "There isn't time for another bird. These men need us now." "Captain Hawkins, that's an order. Break off." Alex made a decision that would define her career and haunt her nightmares. "Sorry, Command. Radio malfunction. I didn't copy your last transmission." She switched to direct communication with Martinez. "Sergeant, we'll hold as long as we can. Get your men out." "Roger that, Hawk 8. We're moving." The next 47 minutes were the longest of Alex's life. The Apache circled the compound, providing continuous fire support. When the 30 ammunition ran low, Reed switched to the rockets. When the rockets were gone, Alex used the helicopter itself as a weapon, diving low, creating noise and dust, drawing enemy fire away from the ground forces. Bullets riddled the Apache. Warning lights flashed across the instrument panel. The hydraulic system was hit. The tail rotor took damage. Fuel leaked from a punctured tank. "Alex, we need to leave," Reed shouted. "This bird is falling apart." "Not yet, they're almost clear." The reinforcements arrived, 40 Taliban fighters pouring into the valley, weapons blazing. Alex flew the damaged Apache directly at them, low and aggressive, forcing them to take cover. An RPG streaked past, missing the helicopter by feet. "Hawk 8, all personnel are loaded. We're clear." Martinez's voice came through, desperate and grateful. "Roger that. Get to safety." Alex pulled the Apache into a climb, trying to gain altitude. That's when the second RPG hit. The explosion tore into the Apache's tail section. The helicopter spun violently. Alex fought the controls, trying to maintain any kind of flight. "Mayday, mayday, Hawk 8 is hit. We're going down." "Eject, eject," Reed shouted. But Alex saw the valley below, saw the Taliban fighters, saw certain death if they ejected. "Hold on, I'm putting her down." She used every bit of skill she had, auto-rotating the damaged Apache, fighting the spin, aiming for a clear patch of ground a mile from the enemy position. The crash was catastrophic. Metal screamed. The world tumbled. Alex felt her body slam against the restraints, felt pain explode through her left arm and ribs. When the helicopter finally stopped sliding, Alex was barely conscious. She could smell fuel smoke. They needed to get out before it exploded. "Reed, you alive?" "Yeah, barely. Can't move my legs." Alex unbuckled with her good hand and dragged herself out of the pilot's seat. Her left arm was broken. Her ribs screamed with every breath. But she got to Reed, pulled him from the front seat, and dragged him away from the wreckage. They made it 50 yards before the Apache's fuel tank exploded. 2 hours later, a rescue helicopter found them. Martinez's ground unit had made it to safety. All 3 wounded soldiers survived because they'd gotten to medical treatment in time. But Alex's career was over. Her injuries were too severe. Multiple broken bones, internal injuries, and traumatic brain injury from the crash. After a year of surgeries and physical therapy, she was medically retired. The Army awarded her the Silver Star for her actions that day. The citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action against an enemy of the United States." But awards didn't pay bills. They didn't heal the nightmares. They didn't make civilian life any easier. And slowly, over the years, Alex had faded into obscurity. The decorated pilot became just another struggling veteran, forgotten by everyone except the men she'd saved. The silence in the VFW post stretched out as Colonel Pritchard stared at Alex. "You're the pilot from Operation Phantom Strike," he said, his voice full of awe. "The one who disobeyed direct orders to break off, who held position against impossible odds, who crashed her helicopter and still got her co-pilot to safety." Alex shifted uncomfortably. "I just did what needed to be done, sir." "Just did what needed to be done?" A man stood up from the back of the room. He was in his early 40s, Latino, with scars on his arms. "Ma'am, you saved my life. You saved all of our lives." Alex looked at him, recognition dawning. "Martinez." "Yes, ma'am, Sergeant First Class Juan Martinez. I was the ground unit leader at Checkpoint Delta." He walked toward her, his eyes glistening with emotion. "I've been looking for you for years. I wanted to thank you. We all did." "There's nothing to thank me for." "Nothing?" Martinez's voice rose. "Ma'am, you held position for 47 minutes while we got our wounded out. You took fire from over 100 enemy fighters. You crashed your bird and still saved your co-pilot. 4 men who would have died that day went home to their families. 3 wounded soldiers survived because you gave us time to get them to medical treatment." He turned to address the room. This woman is a hero, a legend, and she's been working at Walmart and standing in line at food banks. That's not right. That's not how we treat our heroes. The room erupted with voices, people asking questions, expressing shock, offering help. Colonel Pritchard raised his hand for silence. Everyone, please, let's give Captain Hawkins some space. He turned to Alex. Why didn't you tell me who you were yesterday? Because it doesn't matter who I was, sir. I'm not that person anymore. I'm just a broken-down veteran trying to survive. That's where you're wrong. You're still that person. Still the pilot who risked everything to save others. Still the warrior who wouldn't quit. The fact that you're struggling doesn't diminish what you did. Martinez spoke up again. Ma'am, I need to tell you something. After you saved us, after you were medically retired, we tried to find you. The whole unit wanted to stay in touch, wanted to help. But you disappeared. Changed your phone number, moved around. We couldn't track you down. I didn't want to be tracked down, Alex said quietly. I didn't want people seeing what I'd become. The nightmares, the pain, the struggle. I didn't want to disappoint anyone. Disappoint us? Martinez shook his head. Ma'am, you could never disappoint us. You're the reason we're alive. An older woman in the corner spoke up. I'm Sarah Mitchell. My son was one of the wounded you helped evacuate that day. He was shot in the chest, bleeding out. The medic said if they'd gotten to him 5 minutes later, he would have died. You gave them those 5 minutes. My son is alive, married with 2 kids now because of you. She walked over to Alex and took her hands. Thank you. Thank you for giving me more time with my boy. Alex felt tears streaming down her face now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I just wanted to forget, to move past it. Pritchard put a hand on her shoulder. Alex, you can't forget your past. It's part of who you are, but you also can't let it define your future. What you did was extraordinary. What you're doing now, working 2 jobs, raising your daughter alone, fighting through pain and hardship, that's extraordinary too. He addressed the room. This organization exists to help veterans like Captain Hawkins, and I'm proposing we make her our priority case. Who's with me? Every hand in the room went up. Over the next hour, the group mobilized. A local business owner offered Alex a job in his logistics company. Good pay, benefits, flexible hours for her daughter's medical appointments. A real estate agent in the group knew of a subsidized housing program for disabled veterans and promised to help Alex apply. Martinez pulled her aside. Ma'am, there's something else you should know. The unit from that day, the guys you saved, we've been contributing to a fund. We've been putting money aside for years, hoping we'd find you. It's not a fortune, but it's about $20,000. We want you to have it. Alex shook her head. I can't accept that. It's not charity, it's gratitude. It's 8 men who want to pay back a debt we could never fully repay. Please let us do this. Alex looked at all these faces, people who wanted to help, who saw value in her, who remembered what she'd done. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Pritchard said. Say you'll let us help you the way you helped others. Alex wiped her eyes. Yes, thank you, all of you. Emma ran over, having been playing with the other kids. Mama, why are you crying? Alex picked up her daughter. Because sometimes good things happen, baby. Sometimes people surprise you. But as the meeting wound down and people started to leave, Alex noticed a man in the corner who hadn't said anything all night. He was in his early 30s, wearing a suit that seemed out of place in the VFW hall. He'd been watching her with an expression she couldn't read. As Alex was gathering Emma to leave, the man approached. Captain Hawkins, can I speak with you for a moment? Sure, who are you? He pulled out a business card. My name is Daniel Hartwell. I'm a producer for 60 Minutes. I've been researching stories about forgotten military heroes, and your story is exactly what we're looking for. Alex felt her stomach drop. I'm not interested in being on TV. Please, just hear me out. The country needs to hear stories like yours. Veterans who sacrificed everything and then struggled to survive back home. It's a story that could help change how we treat our service members. Or it could exploit my pain for ratings. I understand your skepticism, but I promise this would be respectful, honest, and it could bring attention to the issues you're facing, maybe help other veterans in similar situations. Alex looked at Emma, then at Martinez and Pritchard, who had come over when they saw the conversation. What do you think? She asked them. Martinez spoke first. Ma'am, your story deserves to be told. Not just what happened in Afghanistan, but what happened after. People need to know. Pritchard nodded. It's your choice, Alex, but if you do this, you'd be speaking for thousands of veterans who are struggling in silence. Alex looked at the producer. I need to think about it. Of course, take all the time you need. He handed her his card. Call me when you're ready. That night, after putting Emma to bed, Alex sat on her couch and thought about everything that had happened. In 24 hours, her entire life had changed. She had a job offer, housing help, financial support, and now a chance to tell her story to the nation. But part of her was terrified. Telling her story meant reliving the trauma. It meant exposing her struggles, her failures, her pain. It also meant showing Emma what her mother had been, what she'd sacrificed. Alex pulled out an old box from her closet. Inside were her medals, her flight wings, photographs from her deployments, and letters from the families of soldiers she'd helped save. She read them all, tears streaming down her face. These people remembered her, valued her, saw her as more than just a struggling single mother working at Walmart. Maybe it was time she remembered too. The next morning, Alex called Daniel Hartwell. I'll do the interview, but on one condition. What's that? You include other veterans' stories too. I'm not special. There are thousands of us struggling. Make sure people know that. Absolutely. When can we start? Give me a week to prepare and to talk to my daughter. She needs to understand what's about to happen. The 60 Minutes crew arrived in Fayetteville 2 weeks later. They interviewed Alex for hours about her service, her crash, her struggles afterward. They talked to Martinez and the other soldiers she'd saved. They visited the apartment where she and Emma lived, filmed her at work at Walmart, documented the reality of her life. It was exhausting and emotional. Alex cried on camera more than once, but she also felt something she hadn't felt in years, pride. Pride in what she'd done, what she'd survived. The segment was scheduled to air on a Sunday evening. Alex gathered at the VFW post with dozens of other veterans to watch it together. Emma sat beside her, nervous and excited. When the segment began, the room fell silent. The piece opened with dramatic footage from Afghanistan, then cut to Alex sitting in her small apartment, telling her story. I was just doing my job, she said on screen. Every pilot would have done the same thing. But then Martinez appeared, his voice breaking with emotion. No, they wouldn't have. She had orders to leave. She disobeyed those orders because she knew we'd die if she left. She chose our lives over her own safety, over her career, over everything. The segment showed Alex's Silver Star, her medical records detailing her injuries, the VA paperwork documenting her disability rating. Then it showed her working at Walmart, stocking shelves at 2 a.m., shown her standing in line at the food bank. The correspondent's voice narrated, "This is Captain Alexandra Hawkins today, a decorated war hero who saved 8 lives and is now struggling to feed her daughter. Her story raises difficult questions about how America treats its veterans after they come home." The segment included interviews with other struggling veterans, statistics about veteran homelessness and suicide, calls for better VA support and employment programs. It ended with Alex speaking directly to the camera. I don't want pity. I want people to understand that serving your country doesn't end when you take off the uniform. The sacrifices continue. The struggles continue. And we need support, not just during war, but after. We need our country to remember us, to help us, to value us beyond our service. When the segment ended, the VFW hall erupted in applause. People were crying, hugging Alex, thanking her for her courage in telling the truth. But Alex was watching Emma, who looked up at her with wide, proud eyes. Mama, you're a hero. We're all heroes, baby, everyone in this room. We just need to remember that sometimes. The response to the 60 Minutes segment was overwhelming. Within days, Alex received hundreds of messages, from veterans thanking her for speaking out, from civilians offering support, from organizations wanting to help. A veterans advocacy group invited her to testify before Congress about the challenges of transitioning to civilian life. Major companies reached out offering employment programs specifically for disabled veterans. And donations poured in, not just to Alex personally, but to the Fayetteville Veterans Coalition and other organizations supporting struggling veterans. Colonel Pritchard called her a week after the segment aired. Alex, you've started something important. People are paying attention now. Real change might actually happen. I hope so. It's not just about me. I know, which is why I want to ask you something. We're expanding the coalition, hiring a full-time director to run our programs. I want it to be you. Me, I don't have any experience running a nonprofit. You have something more important. You understand what these veterans are going through because you've lived it. You have credibility, passion, and now, thanks to the segment, you have a platform. Will you consider it? Alex thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Yes, absolutely yes. The job paid well enough to support her and Emma comfortably. It came with benefits, including health insurance that would cover Emma's medications. And it gave Alex purpose again, the sense that she was serving, just in a different way. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected source. 3 weeks after the segment aired, Alex received a letter from the Pentagon. Inside was an invitation to attend a ceremony at the White House. The president wanted to recognize her service and present her with an additional commendation. Alex almost threw the letter away. The idea of going to Washington, of being in the spotlight again, terrified her. But Emma found the letter and read it. "Mama, the president wants to meet you. We have to go." "I don't know, baby. It might be too much." "Mama, you always tell me to be brave. Now it's your turn." Alex smiled. Her daughter was right. They flew to Washington a month later. Alex, Emma, and Colonel Pritchard. Martinez and several of the soldiers from that day in Afghanistan met them there. The ceremony was held in the Rose Garden. Dozens of military leaders and government officials attended. When Alex walked in wearing her old dress uniform, medals displayed on her chest, she felt like a soldier again. The president spoke about Alex's service, about her sacrifice, about the challenges veterans face. Then he called her forward and presented her with the Distinguished Service Medal, one of the highest non-combat awards the military can give. "Captain Hawkins," the president said, "you embody the very best of American values, courage, sacrifice, dedication, and your willingness to speak truth about the struggles you've faced has helped shine a light on issues we must address. Thank you for your service, both in uniform and out of it." Alex stood at attention and saluted. The president returned the salute, then shook her hand. As photographers captured the moment, Alex looked out at the crowd and saw Martinez crying, saw Pritchard beaming with pride, saw Emma watching with an expression of pure joy. This was redemption, not just for her but for every veteran who had struggled in silence, who had felt forgotten, who had wondered if their service had mattered. It mattered, they mattered. 6 months later, Alex stood in a new office at the Fayetteville Veterans Coalition headquarters. The organization had moved to a larger building, funded by donations that had flooded in after the 60 Minutes segment. She was preparing for a meeting with a new veteran, a young Marine who'd been medically retired after losing both legs in an IED blast. He was struggling with depression, unemployment, and the sense that his life was over at 23. Alex knew that feeling intimately. There was a knock on her door. "Ms. Hawkins, the veteran you're meeting with is here." "Send him in." A young man in a wheelchair rolled into her office. He looked defeated, broken. Alex came around her desk and shook his hand. "I'm Alex Hawkins. Thank you for coming." "I'm Jake Morrison. I don't know if I should be here. I don't know if anything can help." Alex sat down across from him. "I felt the same way a year ago. I was broke, working minimum wage jobs, standing in line at food banks. I thought my life was over because my military career was over. But you were a hero. You saved people. I just got blown up. You served your country. You sacrificed your legs for something bigger than yourself. That's heroic too. And your life isn't over. It's just different now. How do you know? How did you get through it?" Alex smiled. "I let people help me. I stopped trying to do everything alone, and I found a new mission, helping other veterans like you. That gave me purpose again." She talked with Morrison for an hour, sharing her story, connecting him with resources, giving him hope. When he left, he was sitting a little straighter in his wheelchair. He was smiling. That evening, Alex drove to Emma's school for parent-teacher night. Emma's teacher pulled her aside. "Ms. Hawkins, I wanted to tell you that Emma did her report on American heroes last week. She chose to write about you." "About me?" "Yes, she talked about your military service, about how you saved lives, and about how you're helping veterans now. She told the whole class that her mother taught her that being a hero doesn't mean being perfect. It means never giving up, even when things are hard." Alex felt tears sting her eyes. She said that. She did, and she's right. You should be very proud of yourself, and she's very proud of you. That night after Emma was asleep in their new apartment, a nice two-bedroom in a safe neighborhood, affordable thanks to Alex's new job, Alex sat on her couch and thought about the journey that had brought her here. A year ago, she had been at rock bottom, broke, hopeless, forgotten. Now she had purpose, stability, and most importantly, she had made peace with who she was. Not the hero from Afghanistan, not the struggling veteran working at Walmart, but someone in between, a person who had faced extraordinary challenges and found ways to survive them all. The tattoo on her forearm showed her call sign, Hawk 8, surrounded by the dates of her service. She'd gotten it a month ago, a permanent reminder of who she'd been and who she'd become. Her phone buzzed with a text from Colonel Pritchard. Just got word that Congress is passing new legislation to improve veteran employment programs and expand VA mental health services. Your testimony made a difference. You should be proud. Alex smiled and texted back, "We all made a difference. That's what this was about." She set down her phone and looked around her apartment, at the photos on the wall of her in uniform, of Emma at her school play, of the veterans she'd helped through the coalition. This was home, this was peace, this was redemption. Not because she'd been recognized by the president or featured on national television, but because she'd found her way back from the darkness, because she'd let people help her, because she'd learned that strength wasn't about never falling, it was about getting back up every single time. The girl who had flown Apache helicopters through enemy fire. The woman who had crashed and survived. The mother who had worked 3 jobs to feed her daughter. The veteran who had stood in line at a food bank with her head down. And now, the leader who was helping others find their way home. All of it was part of her story, all of it mattered. Alex Hawkins, call sign Hawk 8, had finally completed her most important mission. She had found her way home, and she had brought an army of forgotten veterans with her. The room had frozen when she spoke her call sign because people remembered the legend. But what they would remember from now on was the truth, that heroes aren't defined by their victories, but by how they handle their defeats. And Alex had shown them all how to turn defeat into redemption. One struggling veteran at a time. That was the real mission. And it was just beginning.